Hey, my friends, welcome to another episode of Live at Five. I don't know why I call it an episode. It's not really it's one of my podcasts. But this is where we like to talk, take your questions, where we take your questions and answer them. So in the chat box below or in social media. So Sydney, if Sydney can monitor social media as well. If you have questions, type them in the chat box and we'll answer those questions for you. So we have a topic. Oh, Sydney, I'm giving away. I am giving away a $50 gift card. Is that $50, right? $50 I'm giving away today. So hopefully you're on here. But the topic today for mortgages is what is an underwriter and what do they and how do they affect the process of getting a mortgage? So an underwriter, the best thing how I can describe an underwriter is if you're ever building a home, you have an inspector that looks at that home to make sure that that home is being built right. So they look at the wiring, they look at the walls, they look at the plumbing, they look at the HVAC, they look at everything to make sure that everything's that's done correctly. And some contractors, hopefully my contractor friends aren't on here, but sometimes they like to cut corners. And the inspector, it's his or her job to make sure that that house is being built correctly. And that's what an underwriter does. It's not to say that we in the mortgage industry like to cut corners, but some do. Just to be, let's be transparent about this. Like some people like to cut corners and see if they can get things through as easy as possible. So it's the underwriter's job to make sure that that loan fits guidelines. And so if we send in a file and it says, hey, we need 2 pay stubs and we only send one, they're going to ask for another one. Or if there's something that comes up that they have a question on, they're going to ask for some additional documentation. So it's all part of the process. So if you're ever in getting a loan and the underwriter asks some questions or asks for some additional documentation, don't worry about it. That's part of the process. It's really normal. So don't be all stressed about it. It's just part of the process. So that's my analogy on what an underwriter does is kind of like what an inspector does when you're buying a home. So for those that are just joining us, remember I'm giving away $50 gift certificate today. And I think we have another one we're giving away later on too, but today we're giving away $50. Type in your questions in the chat box or on social media. We will see if we can take those. But we did have some questions that come in about underwriters and what do they do in the process. So Sydney, do you want to jump on?
Hi.
This is Sydney. She's my marketing manager. She takes care of all the stuff that's going on in the background. And she's in a house right now where the planes are flying over. So we were talking earlier and so she lives close to Hill Air Force Base. So
it's pretty noisy.
Yeah. So what are some of the questions? $50 today, right?
Yes, $50 for a grocery store of your choice.
So Thanksgiving's coming up, and if you're like my family, sometimes when we get together, there's a lot of people, and that grocery bill can get pretty hefty. So $50 gift certificate for a grocery store of your choice is what we're giving away today. So what are some of the questions that came up?
The first question we have is, how long does it take an underwriter to make a decision on your loan?
Okay, so an underwriter, once we package the file all up and we send it over to an underwriter. An underwriter's going through the whole thing, just like that analogy that I gave a little earlier of an inspector inspecting a home. So I'm going to go back to that analogy. So when that inspector inspects the home, they're going to come back and say, hey, this all looks good, but this isn't done, and this isn't done, and this isn't done. And so you need those things fixed before hey, Debbie says hello. So if you, when we go back to that underwriter, they're checking to make sure everything's done, and same thing, or on that inspector, they're making sure everything is done. So does an underwriter. An underwriter is going to look at the file and say, hey, I get this part of it, but I don't have a clear picture on this part of the file. So they may ask some questions, and I'm getting to the answer here in just a second. So, but the answer was, how long does it take an underwriter to make a decision on your loan? So right now we're a couple days out for an underwriter to look at the file. They will come back. They will usually look at the file, and oftentimes they have some questions. So then we have to go back and answer those questions, or maybe the appraisal isn't back yet. We're pushing it through the underwriter to get decisions before the appraisal is back. So they send it back and say, okay, once you get the appraisal done, answer a couple questions. I might need this document. Send those back to me when the appraisal's in, and then we can look at it and give you a final approval. So it's pretty normal process. But so I know I'm not answering the question of how long does it take an underwriter. Usually a couple days, 2 to 3 days before you get an initial approval. And then once we send it back to them, it's usually another day or two before they get an answer back. It just depends on how many files is in the queue. So if the if the queue is pretty short, then it's a much faster answer. During the summer, when there's a lot of files going through, it can take a little bit longer because there's just more files in the queue. Hopefully that makes sense. So I know I'm dancing around that question. Usually 2 to 3 days, and we'll have an answer. We might have to go back to them one more time, but 2 to 3 days is usually a pretty safe answer. Did I dance around that one enough, Sydney?
That was good. That was fun.
Okay. What other questions do we have come in? If you are on right now and you have some questions, whether it's about underwriting or something else, drop them in the chat box below.
Our next question is the underwriter a part of the Pippin team or a separate entity?
Okay. I like that question. So all of the process on our files is handled right in our office, with the exception of the underwriting. So the underwriting is still kept at our company. It's just a separate building. It's a separate place where all the underwriters are housed. So I know that there are other companies that send their entire file out, man. They have they don't have any control over the file at all. But we have control over the file the entire time. Everything happens in our office except for the underwriting, but it's still within our company. We don't send it out. We don't send it out to some other company to underwrite it for us. It happens right here. So to answer that question, is they're not necessarily part of the Pippin team. I'm not paying their salary, but my company is, because I'm the Pippin team at Cardinal Financial. Cardinal Financial, they're all Cardinal Financial underwriters. They're not somebody else's underwriters. So, which is important to know, because that makes a difference on how quickly we can get stuff through and how much control we have on that file. So that's a great question. I like that one. What other questions did we have come in?
Our next question.
Before you answer that, one more time. We haven't. I know that Sydney has been working on getting the winner for the gift certificate. We have that. We're gonna announce that here in just a minute.
All right. So our last question is, how far back do underwriters look at your credit history?
Okay, so credit history, we're going to look at, we pull up a credit report and we look at, it depends on the guidelines. So if you're FHA, it's a little bit further back, and it depends on the credit line. So if you have a bankruptcy, they're going to go back at least 2 to 7 years, depending on what that bankruptcy looks like. Or if it's collection accounts, they still maybe go back a couple of years. So it really just depends on your credit, how far back they look. I mean, if you have stellar credit, they can see that. So, I mean, stuff stays on your credit report for about 7 years. There are some exceptions to that where they stay on 10 years, such as a bankruptcy. There are things that stay on there. But other than that, everything else drops off your credit, won't have any effect on your credit. So then we don't care either. So hopefully that answers that question. Any other questions that you see coming in, Sydney?
That's everything.
Okay. Just want to make sure I didn't see any on the chat box or in social media. If you dropped one in, sorry, we didn't get to it. So we're going to give away the that gift certificate, $50 gift certificate to any grocery store of your choice. We have got Thanksgiving coming up here pretty quickly. Go a long way to help with that grocery bill on Thanksgiving. So, Sydney, take it away. Tell us who has won the $50 gift certificate.
All right. So our winner is from Instagram, and it's Colleen Schofield, and her Instagram handle is at Colleen Amethyst. So congratulations, Colleen.
Woo! Colleen is our winner for $50. We're going to give another one away. When are we going to do that? We're going to do that next week?
That's next week. Yep.
Okay. So to enter, all you have to do is watch. What are they have to like and share and tag people on specific posts. So tell us how they enter.
On either our Instagram page or our Facebook page, you can comment tell us what you're grateful for, and tag a friend that you might think would want the gift certificate as well. And then for extra entries, for 5 extra entries, you can share the post and make sure you tag the Pippin team or Ron, or at Ron, or Pippin.Ron, sorry. And then that'll be 5 extra entries into that.
And so that's how some of these people, I know that the one that says that the people that have won here recently have, they've like been sharing. So if you enter, the people that are entering more often seem to be the ones that are winning. So, I mean, it's just, they have more entries. So, and so Sydney puts this all into like this computer generated randomizer, and we don't know who's going to win. I don't know who Colleen is, but congratulations, Colleen. I'm glad you won. So, all right, guys. So that will wrap up this segment of Live at 5. Go make sure that you, if you have questions about mortgages, we'd love to help you. We'd love to help anybody that you know. You can reach me at 801-628-7667, or you can reach me on, you can see right here at the bottom of the screen, the Pippin team, at the Pippin team on Instagram, or Pippin team on Facebook. You can also find me at Pippin Ron on Facebook, and the Pippin team on, what is that? What is that one, Sydney? Is that the YouTube? Oh, that's YouTube? Okay, she gave me a thumbs up. So that's YouTube, the Pippin team. Go check out our YouTube channel, man. We've got all kinds of videos on there, helpful videos. So anyway, we will catch you next week on Live at 5.